Hey everyone. You know how sometimes you think back to math class and you're like, when am I ever going to use this?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, get ready to eat your words because today we're diving into trigonometry.
Ooh, fun.
And not just any trigonometry, we're talking about those compound angle formulas from the textbook excerpts you shared.
Yeah, those are a good one.
So get ready to see how this ancient math is still shaping our world today.
I think what's really fascinating about trigonometry is that it's not just about triangles.
Right.
It's like the language of circles and waves and oscillation things we see and hear all the time.
Like everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like math went undercover and became the foundation for how things work.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Sounds good.
Now, I know we could do a whole recap of, SOHCHAA and all that,
Right.
but I think our listeners are already pretty familiar with the basics.
For sure.
So let's just jump right into those compound angle formula.
Okay, let's do it.
They might look kind of scary at first glance,
Yeah, a little bit.
but trust me, there's an elegance to them. It's like a puzzle where all the pieces fit together perfectly.
I like that analogy.
So let's start with one of the most common ones, the sine and the sum of two angles. Sine of A plus B.
Okay, so sin A plus B.
Exactly.
It breaks down to sin A cos B plus cos A sin B.
Okay, so it's not just some random equation. It actually means something.
Right. It's not just theoretical. It describes how waves interact with each other.
So like how sound waves combine to make music or how light waves create different colors.
Exactly. Like when you're listening to music, each note has its own wave. And these compound angle formulas, they help us understand how those waves combine to create the rich sounds we hear.
Whoa, that's so cool. It's like those formulas are describing the symphony happening in my ears right now.
And it goes way beyond music. Think about GPS, for example.
All right.
It relies on triangulating signals from satellites, and those calculations involve compound angles, taking into account the position of the satellites and the curvature of the Earth.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. So every time I use GPS to find my way, I'm actually using compound angles without even realizing it.
Precisely. And let's say you're playing a video game, right?
I love a good video game.
The movements of the characters, the way objects rotate, all of that is based on trigonometry.
Really?
Yeah, those formulas are used to create those realistic 3D environments and animations.
I'm starting to see compound angles everywhere.
They're everywhere.
It's like they're this invisible force behind so much of what we see and experience.
Let me give you another example.
Okay, hit me.
Have you ever wondered how medical imaging works?
Like x-rays and stuff?
Exactly. Techniques like X-rays and CT scans, they rely on compound angles to reconstruct images of the inside of the body.
Hold on, so doctors are using these same compound angle formulas to see inside our bodies?
Absolutely. They use these formulas to calculate the path of X-rays as they pass through the body at different angles, and that creates a 3D image.
That's mind-blowing. I'm starting to think those compound angle formulas are like a universal language describing everything from the movement of planets to the way our brains process information.
It's true, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more applications of compound angles.
I bet.
But before we get too deep into those,
Right.
let's take a step back and look at some of the key concepts that underpin these formulas.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive into those building blocks.
One concept you might have come across is the versed sign.
Versed sign.
Yeah.
It sounds like something out of like a Shakespeare play or something.
Yeah, it does sound a bit archaic,
Yeah.
but it was actually really important for early astronomers.
Okay, so like back in the day before we had all the fancy telescopes and computers.
Exactly. Imagine trying to calculate the position of a star centuries ago without any of our modern tools.
Right.
The versed sign helped measure how much the curve of the Earth affected your observations.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's basically how much the cosine of an angle falls short of one.
So it's like a correction factor accounting for the fact that we're standing on a giant sphere.
Exactly. It's pretty clever when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
And speaking of clever things, let's talk about those standard angle charts you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
The ones with angles like 30, 45, 60 degrees.
Right, and all their sine, cosine, tangent values.
Yeah, those were like a cheat sheet for trig.
Totally. I remember memorizing those values like it was yesterday.
They're like the multiplication tables of trigonometry.
Uh-huh. That's a good way to put it.
And they come in handy when working with those compound angle formulas. Remember how we broke down the sine of 75 degrees using 45 and 30?
Yeah.
That's where knowing those standard values really speeds things up.
So it's like having a toolbox of pre-calculated values that you could just plug in.
Exactly. It's all about breaking down complex problems into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Right?
And that's one of the beautiful things about trigonometry. It's like a system of interconnected relationships
Yeah.
that allows us to make sense of these complex patterns.
It's like a secret code. But instead of unlocking a treasure chest, it's unlocking the secrets of the universe.
I like that analogy.
Thanks.
And speaking of unlocking secrets, let's dive into another area where compound angles play a key role, the world of signals and waves.
Okay, hold on. We're talking about like radio waves, light waves, even the electrical signals in our brains, right?
Exactly, all of that. Any signal, no matter how complex, can be broken down into a combination of simple sine and cosine waves.
So you're saying even something as complex as a brainwave can be deconstructed into these basic wave building blocks.
That's exactly right. And the tool that allows us to do this is called the Fourier transform.
Fourier transform, okay.
And guess what? It heavily relies on our friend trigonometry, specifically those sine and cosine functions.
Wait, are you telling me that those same sine and cosine waves we've been talking about are the key to understanding how our brains work?
Well, it's not that simple, but they are a fundamental part of the process. The Fourier transform helps us analyze the different frequencies present in a signal, which can tell us a lot about what's going on.
Okay, my mind is officially blown again. I'm starting to see how trigonometry is like the underlying language of the universe, connecting everything from sound waves to brain waves.
And this Fourier transform isn't just theoretical, it's used in countless applications, from analyzing audio signals and compressing images to processing medical images and even modeling weather patterns.
So those compound angles and trigonometric functions that seem so abstract back in school are actually the backbone of some of the most advanced technologies we use today.
Absolutely, and who knows what other applications we'll discover in the future.
I'm excited to find out, but for now, I think I need a moment to process all this amazing information. It really makes you think, huh?
It does. It really highlights how knowledge is all connected in ways we don't always see right away.
Totally. So
Yeah.
for our listeners out there, you shared those textbook excerpts on compound angles. Obviously, you're digging into some pretty serious math.
Yeah.
So hopefully this deep dive has given you a new way of looking at those formulas.
Yeah.
They're not just some abstract equations. They're tools for understanding the universe.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
So next time you're listening to your favorite song,
Yeah.
remember those compound angles are working their magic to create those harmonies.
That's right. And when you use GPS to get around, think about those trick calculations guiding your way.
And when you see a beautiful sunset, all those colors come from light waves interacting. And you know what?
What?
Those interactions are described by compound angles.
It all comes back to trig.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to take this even further, look up how Fourier transforms use trig to break down any signal into its basic parts.
That's some next level stuff.
It really is, but it's
Yeah.
also so elegant and powerful.
It is. It lets us analyze complex things, understand the patterns, and even use those patterns to make new technologies.
Like having a secret decoder ring for the universe.
Exactly. And remember, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to discover in the world of trigonometry.
So keep that curiosity alive, keep learning, and who knows what you'll find out there. Until then, happy calculating.